How to draw leather texture step-by-step tutorial. Hello my creative friend, my name is Olga Sorokina, and in this tutorial I'm gonna show you my step-by-step process of drawing a beautiful leather chair. So I'm gonna show you how to draw it in markers and by using a white pastel pencil as well. So let's get started. Alright, so let's get started, and this is, you guys, kind of a preliminary sketch I made just before recording this video. I just wanted to understand how to better give you this material on leather texture. So we will draw a nice chair and we will draw it in front view and in 3/4 view. In this video I will use professional markers and special marker paper, marker pad, which is specially made for markers, obviously. If you don't have any markers or marker paper, you can use colored pencils, for example, plain paper. You can even use watercolors. So let's begin. Well, and first thing I always check before drawing is if I'm drawing on the right side of the paper, and you can see that on the right side of the paper my marker is immediately absorbed, while on the wrong side it's smeared. So I highly recommend you to always check if you're drawing on the right side of the paper as well. Well, let's get started by defining the basic proportions and positioning our future sketch of a chair on our piece of paper. So I position it slightly closer to the right corner, and my piece of paper is positioned horizontally. So here is going to be the middle line, mid-axis, because our armchair is symmetrical, and I will divide this segment, its height, into 3 equal parts. Then I take one part and put it horizontally, so it's gonna be the width of our chair. And here we have like corners, the widest part of our object, and here at the top it becomes a little bit narrower, so these segments are equal and these upper segments are equal as well. So this is a trapeze-like shape of our object, its upper part. Very good. Moving on, so now let's define our legs. Legs for our chair. They are starting right here at the corners, and the closer they are to the bottom, the wider is space, the distance between them. Well, when the basic proportions are done, it's time to define our vanishing point. So our chair presented in frontal perspective, as we can see on the reference photo. So here is in the middle of the upper part of the chair, here is our vanishing point. So let's draw these nice 4 lines from the corners of the chair to this vanishing point. And you know, this type of perspective, which is called frontal perspective or sometimes one-point perspective, it's actually the easiest type of perspective in interior sketching. Alright, so for now I'm arching this line. I'm making arch between these 2 dots, and let's double it. Let's make the second one and find these points of intersection with the lines running up to the vanishing point. So here is actually the seat. This is the distance for the seat of our chair. For now, let's make the back of the chair a little bit more narrow. So these lines are starting at these 2 points of intersection. And now it really is very close to what we have on our reference photo with these 2 nice chairs. Alright, continuing with the legs. So we already have shown these 2 frontal legs in the front, in the foreground. So continuing with the background legs from the back, they are starting from these back points and running down until intersection with the lines running up to vanishing point, point A. Here to the left, I've added our final drawing. It's a final drawing from today's lesson. Alright, so we are connecting these 2 points and defining the basement of the chair. Now we will find the midpoint to show its beautiful design. So we should draw 2 diagonal lines. We should connect these points, and this gives us the midpoint. So here is basically the midline, and we can continue on showing this amazing design. So it takes some space, this midline, very short space actually, and now we should round the corners of the legs, because as you can see at the reference photo, these metal frameworks, they are beautifully rounding at the corners. Alrighty, so we are done with the basic proportions of our frontal view, this first chair in frontal perspective, and now it's time to show it in 2-point perspective. So these 2 lines, they will be joining at the point to the left. It will be their vanishing point. This chair, it's in frontal perspective. This one, as you can see on the reference photo, it's kind of an angular view, so we can see its angle. And usually angular view, 2-point perspective view, is a little bit more complex in comparison with the frontal perspective, because we should keep in mind these vanishing points. So these 3 lines, they will connect in the vanishing point to the right, and these 2 guys will connect in the vanishing point to the left. So basically we have here, we should keep in mind here 2 vanishing points, and all the lines in our drawing should go to one of these 2 vanishing points. Well, for the back of the chair, it just becomes a little bit more narrow to the top. That's why I'm drawing these lines like this, in such a way. And now it's time to show the legs of the chair. So I just draw these lines from each of the 4 points of this plane. And this plane is basically a seat of our chair. Alright, so now let's show the basement for our legs. Let's show its projection on the floor. So remember that we are keeping in mind that we have 2 vanishing points to the right and to the left. So this line is coming to the left one, this one as well is running to the left vanishing points. It's important because otherwise your perspective view will look very strangely. So all your lines should be joining in one of 2 vanishing points. Well, and for now I just want we to draw more precisely this beautiful design of a seat of the chair, of our chair. So it has kind of a smile, this arch smile-like. So let's show it, and of course not to forget to show this beautiful intersection, this beautiful midline in the middle of the basement of the chair. So as always I'm drawing 2 diagonals, they give me point of intersection, and this is exactly the midpoint. Great job, you guys, and now we are done with the sketching part for our armchair chair sketch, and now it's time to color. So we transition into our coloring mode. So let's select a couple of markers, preferably brown ones, to show this beautiful leather texture. As you can see, now I'm using a wide tip of my marker. Or just beforehand, maybe you've noticed I used a brush nib of the same marker. It's very comfortable to use these both tips, and notice how I put the color. I put it in the direction of my vanishing points on the seat, and just vertically on the back of the chair. Very good. Now let's have a quick look at my preliminary sketch. So we can see here that the light source is placed on the left side. So the light is coming from the left. That's why we have this nice beautiful white edges to the left on the leather texture, and our shadows will be to the right. So here is the reference photo, it will help us. And now we should firstly show the thickness of our chair, so to show that it's not a cartoon, it's not a piece of paper, it has a thickness, and I'm showing it right now. And as you can see, I continuing using my brush tip of a marker. Actually, it's my favorite type of a nib on professional markers, and it's just perfect in order to show this texture, this leather texture, because it helps to show its softness. So, and now I'm putting my strokes in different directions, once again to show the character of this texture, the character of leather. And please notice that I'm trying to make the color more intense to the left side of this texture. Why? Because our light source is coming from the left, and I want to show this nice contrast between this light part, which is lighted, this, you remember this thickness of the chair, and beautiful contrast between light and shadow. Alright, so the same thing to the right, and now I just want to show this technique, this putting strokes in different dimensions, with performing it in a wide tip of a marker. So in case you don't have a brush tip, you can make it by using the wide tip of a marker. Alright, so for now let's analyze, let's look at the light and shadow on this seat. So it's kind of a scheme that I'm drawing right now. So we have this arched seat, which is like a smile, and we have a light which is coming from the left side, and that's why the right side of our seat will be more in light, and the left side will be darker, and this transition between them will be like a beautiful gradient. Alright, so let's perform this scheme one more time, but this time we will draw it in perspective, so the plane of the seat will be opening. So we can see that the left side is darkened because it's in shadow, and we can see this beautiful gradient to the left side, which is lightened. Alright, and now getting back to our beautiful armchairs, now we will darken this thickness, their thickness. So let's show here and there this beautiful dark effect. And as you can see, I put here layer after layer, and it's really important to give it some time so it will be dry. And as you can see, when it's not dried, it looks like wet, it's glittering on the sun, this glazing, mirroring effect. So I give it some time. I can see that it's dried, and I put my next layer, and you can see that I put the strokes of the markers in different directions to show the character of leather texture. So let's continue darkening these shadows, and as you can see, I make this gradient a little bit darker to the left corner because of the sun is coming from the left, so the lightest side, this thickness of the chair, is on the left, and to show this contrast in a more dramatic way, I'm darkening this shadow here to the left. Alright, it's time to quickly define the legs of the chair, so I'm using basically the same color, and I'm putting this nice and straight strokes here and there. No need to put them through all the legs because we will have a separate color for the legs, but I want this color to be seen through the darker color, so it will give us this beautiful idea of unity and oneness, so this basically unity effect. Alright, so now I picked a very beautiful color of a light sky, and I want to show you this cool effect of making a background for your sketch. So we basically take any elementary form. For example, it can be a rectangular form or square, maybe even circle or triangle, and we put this form at the back of our sketch. So as you can see now, this blue rectangular, it really does great work for the chairs because it's, first of all, it has a complementary color, so the blue and yellowish brown, they are complementary, so we have nice cool and warm colors in our scene, in our drawing, which once again gives us this unity effect. Very good. So now, as you can see, I'm continuing this darkening process, this work with light and shadow in our sketch, and now I want to make this upper part of a seat of a chair, this back of a chair, a little bit darker. Also, let's darken this very right side of our object. Why? Because if we will look at its plan, at its layout, we will see that the back of the chair, it has this kind of form. So to the left it will be lighter, here it will be the light, here will be the shadow. This is the light, here we are shadowing, and here is the very strongest type of shadow, own shadow of an object. Well, let me draw this scheme, this layout of the back of the chair one more time. So we have this nice little curve of the back of the chair. So once again, the very left side of it, it will be the lightest part, this thickness of the back of the chair. Then it will be beautiful gradient on this curve, and very right side will be the darkest one, and I will take now chocolate brown color. It's a little bit darker, 2 tones darker than the previous brown marker I've used. So I think you guessed what I'm going to do. I'm going to make this shadow, this very right side of the chair, even darker, and let's put a little bit of it to the left, because just because we have these seams of the stool. So let me one more time quickly refer to this layout scheme of the stool. So basically we have these seams here. Basically this material, it can be fabric, it can be leather. It's like a piece, It's like a piece of material, and these two pieces of materials from the back and from the front part of an object, these pieces of material are stitched together. And you can clearly see it now on the reference photo I've attached. So, as you can see, we have this beautiful contrast of very dark lines of the seams, and they are contrasting with the lightest part of the chair, which is to the left. Great, and now we are moving to the very last stage of our drawing, which is adding shadows and different details. So let's start with the shadowing. And with a very light strokes of my brush nib of a marker, I put this beautiful light blue color, and notice that I darken the color the closer it is to the legs themselves. As you can see, shadowing is really very easy to implement, but it changes the overall picture dramatically. Everything becomes more 3D, three-dimensional. Alright, and now I'm going to add this nice bold black color. And it really adds this graphic touch to our final sketch. Everything becomes more vivid, more bold, to say. And I love how this beautiful contrast of mild, earthy leather texture contrasting with this metal frame works. And now you can see on the photo to the left the final picture, the final sketch. Let's continue working on our metal frame legs. So now what I want to do is to add here some more differentiation, some more thickness in the color, in the thickness of lines, so my sketch will look more interestingly. And I've just found my normal plain black marker, because previously I worked with this super white Copic, which I don't normally do. I usually use this normal marker, black marker. So let's add these two guys, these two metal parts to finish off our design of the legs. Good job! And finally, these last 5 minutes of my tutorial, I'm gonna be adding beautiful white pastel pencil to my drawing, and as you can see, it really does create fantastic visual effects, and indeed it enhances the look and feeling of that leather texture. I will add it here on the seat, kind of a reflection of this bag, and I like how it looks now. And what I really love about white pastel pencil in comparison with plain white colored pencil is that pastel pencil is really easily can be retouched, so you can create this nice soft look. And now I just want to add some extra brown color. So basically I want to make this part to the left maybe a little bit darker, so I just put this brown color over the pastel pencil, and now we can see how it looks. You can notice that I put my strokes in this kind of irregular kind of way to once again enhance this leather texture, to show that it's natural material, natural texture, and I want to darken this part to the left. And the last thing I'm gonna do here now is adding this white ink gel pen to the metal frame of the legs, once again to show this contrasting of light and shadow on the metal texture, which is quite contrasting indeed. After doing that, I'm gonna continuing with my white ink gel pen, but on a leather texture. So I'm adding it right here, so it's the lightest part of the chair, and I want to add it right here where we have this junction of two parts of the leather, the back one and the frontal one. So let's see, it's here, right here, these seams, these junctions. Alright, you guys, we are almost done. Our final touches will be with white pastel pencil. I'm using here this brand which is called Caran d'Ache. I think it's a Swiss brand of pastel pencil. So I'm adding this central seam. You can see it on the reference photo. And the very last thing we want to do is to put our signature, our name, or name of a project somewhere at the bottom of our sketch. I've already done it, as you can see. It's really important, and here I want to frame this light blue rectangular so it looks maybe more interestingly. Alright, you guys, and we did it. We finished our drawing of a leather texture, and finally at the end of this video I want to invite you to join my online e-course on interior sketching with markers for beginners. All the information you will find on my website www.olgaart38.com. In that course for beginners, I cover 1 and 2 point perspectives, and we will draw 5 beautiful interior sketches. You can see them right now on the screen. And one more time, our today's drawing of a leather texture. Hope you enjoyed this video tutorial. Please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to my channel. See you soon!